Look, I'm wearing the headphones. Are you happy now? Hello Tube Dwellers and welcome. I'm the Arcadean and this is Mabinogi Duel. Today we're looking at RAGNA the Bloodedge. Boop. Or as devCAT likes to call him, RAGNA equals the equals Bloodedge. Your guess is as good as mine. Now, this guy's been largely dismissed by the player base, and with good reason, honestly. He's not one of those light creatures that's a really powerful finisher or excellent utility value that's going to swing battlefield tempo in your favor. By himself, he's not a play this card, have a good chance of winning. Nevertheless, there are a couple of tricky little ways that you can use him that will gain you sort of tempo, battlefield advantage in particular ways, and so on. So we will be looking at that today, as well as, of course, a PvP Platinum level deck. So let's take a look. All right, once the thing disappears, he doesn't want to go away. He's a big star. Okay, so first up we have the Forest Keeper Imp, standard 1-drop mana creature. Black Spirit would also be absolutely fine. Next up we have the Mana Arrow of Revenge. Most of our creatures are chip damage creatures. We don't have any significantly heavy hitters in the deck, so the Arrow of Revenge allows us to get just that little bit more damage out, as well as opening up some surprise KOs. Next up, we have Hidden Spider, an excellent trap creature card on his own, but we actually use him in conjunction with Ragna. The idea is that you have this guy in your grave, you bring out Ragna, Ragna will lure out a removal spell, which in turn summons a Hidden Spider. So your opponent gains no battlefield advantage, because you still have a creature out onto the field, and you're helping to sort of rack up grave cost on your opponent's cards, and keep the removal spells expensive, drop the resources, force them to use actions to revive the spells from the grave, and so on and so forth. Next up, we have the Holy Missile, standard 1-cost light removal spell, very useful, especially with Dark being so prevalent in the meta. Next, we have Mukro Algesco Yukianessa, a very, very useful non-targeted transformation spell. So in many instances, of course, Turn to Frog would be better, and if you prefer that, by all means, put that in your deck. But this can be extremely useful for targeting down creatures that resist targets, creatures like Beastkin Jane, for example, who will cancel any spell that's cast directly on them. Next, we have Lichi Fei Ling, a very interesting kind of bounce-around sort of creature. Got a bit of eagle in her, very useful for dealing with aggro cards, aggro decks you may go up against, as well as being able to push some of your own sort of finisher cards out of the way of blockers. So if you play a card that could deal fatal damage, your opponent's played a creature in front of it, use Lichi to push the fatal damage creature out of the way of the blocker and allow it to do its damage. Again, more surprise damage. The deck is very much based around surprise. And in that spirit, next up is Cocoon Trap. Very useful if you can successfully predict something like a new number 13 or any of the big creatures, Jurgens, Doom Machines, all that sort of thing coming out onto the field. As well as, of course, Illurin currently. Her nerf hasn't quite hit yet, so we do need the extra protection against her. Next, we have Hunt, standard low-cost nature removal. Always got to have those in there. Next is Light Drag to Hell. You could replace this with a Light Command Hunting if you wanted to. I wouldn't necessarily recommend another Light Hunt. You already have one. But if that's all you have, by all means go for it. And, of course, Surprise Attack is also fine. Next up, we have Ragna equals the equals Bloodedge. Now, this card doesn't meet HP breakpoint, so it won't resist the standard 2-cost removal spells and so on and so forth. However, what you can do is use him in a similar sort of way to a share card. You can play him when your opponent is ready to level up to level 2, and then your opponent's in an awkward situation. Either your opponent levels up, takes Ragna's sort of ability, drain damage off their HP, as well as Ragna's actual damage, which, as you can see, at level 1 would be 6 damage, which is pretty brutal. Or your opponent decides to try to remove Ragna with a spell, thereby not leveling up, and if you have Hidden Spider in the grave, Hidden Spider is then summoned, and your opponent is not in much of a better situation, and then you can level up before them if you haven't already. So use Ragna in a tempo style, would be my recommendation after running a number of decks with him. Use him as that kind of tricksy card that puts your opponent into something of a no-win situation. Next, we have the new standard for mid-range mana creatures, new number 13. Just a very solid creature for her cost. Very useful indeed. Just make sure that when you're summoning her, nothing else is in the center slot. You really do need her to bring out her sword to be effective. And finally, we have Light Flame Emission, an AoE, because you always need at least one of those, and the Light Flame Emission is a very, very good one. So, that's the deck. It's a tricksy, surprise, chip damage tempo style of deck. A little bit difficult to operate. I wouldn't advise using this if you're a complete newbie to the game, but if you like to sort of use traps, use tricks, mind games with your opponent, and you're pretty good at predicting, I think you're going to enjoy this one. So, let's start it up. Okay, fight number 1. Japanese player, PvP first Dan, using the Mari hero, which is quite interesting. 2 mutants on her side, so that's going to work out quite well for us with the 4 HP drop. And we start. 2 into light, nothing we can do with that, so we'll just drop the Hidden Spider into the grave in anticipation of bringing out Ragna at some point before level 2. She charges up, that's absolutely fine with us. We'll just drop the Forest Keeper Imp off center because we're not using command hunting, and we'll see how she responds. If she removes it with a spell, we have the Hidden Spider. If she drops a creature, then we have removal spells. So we're not doing too badly here, regardless of what she chooses to do. Although she does have enough mana for a number 13, which she may decide to bring out at level 1, even though that's not entirely optimal. But she does. Okay, so number 13 comes out. That'll summon the sword. It's not really a big deal. We'll remove number 13, I think. The Flying Sword's HP will drop to 4, which will take us to 18, and we'll have her down to 16. So we'll still be leading in that way. So yes, let's use the hunt on number 13. That protects our imp from the ability, and we're not too worried about the 4 damage coming out from the Flying Sword. Okay, now, will she charge, or will she cast a spell, or will she drop another creature? These are the questions we ask ourselves. Either way, she can't level up immediately, so with our Hidden Spider in the grave, we can play Ragna now to put her into an awkward sort of do I level up, don't I level up situation. Okay, so a leopard comes out. It's not quite really ideal. I would have preferred her to charge up, just so we only had the 1 creature and we could block it with Ragna. But, yeah, it's not a big deal. We will drop Ragna then, I think, in front of the leopard. We kind of want to keep that middle slot free for our number 13, if at all possible. So, yeah, let's drop it in front of the leopard. All right, now, if she casts a spell to remove him, we've got Hidden Spider out onto the field, and if she doesn't cast a spell to remove him, then that's 3 damage coming off his ability, 3 damage coming off the Forest Keeper, so she kind of has to answer that. And she does with a Turn to Frog, which actually is pretty good, because it summons a Hidden Spider, and it also, right in front of Flying Sword, but it also means that the Leopard doesn't get any damage off on us, because the Frog technically blocks it. All right, so that was good. With Forest Keeper attacking now, that takes her down to 10. If she levels up now, she'll get, 13 HP, which would just take her right back down to 10. But she blocks it with a Phantom of the Wolf. Interesting. Okay, well, we don't need to worry too much about that. The Imp is going to kill that Phantom anyway. We'll bring out number 13 and charge. She'll summon the sword, and because Phantom of the Wolf is going to die... actually, let's drop a Cocoon Trap instead, yeah. The Phantom of the Wolf is going to die, which drops the Flying Sword's attack down to 4, which means that it can't kill our Flying Sword. So again, she's in an awkward situation. If she levels up, she's only going to get a little bit of HP back, which the Forest Keeper Imp is immediately going to take off her and keep her at 10. Barter. Okay, so she sees that we're fairly low on HP as well and decides to really push that. That summons out the hidden spider, though, unfortunately for her, which basically means it is game for us. All we need to do now is remove that flying sword from in front of our flying sword and land the finishing blow. There we go. So we're ready to level up to 3 after this charge, and we managed to keep our opponent at level 1. And this is really the disadvantage to Mari. If your opponent can manipulate your HP at the beginning of the fight, they basically they win. Still, good fight, and on to number 2. Okay, fight number 2 against Zidapa, using the neutral hero and a tricolor deck with no mutants in it. Okay, interesting. Alright, so she charges up, that's fine. We will just play an offensive Forest Keeper Imp and see if we can lure out any responses in the way of removal spells, that kind of thing. So let's see, if we can... oh, okay, open gold chest, bringing out a dragon. Interesting, interesting. All right. Well, we can just remove that with a combination of Hunt and Forest Keeper Imp damage, so let's do that. There we go. That puts us into a fairly solid position, resource-wise. Now, our opponent's pretty much going to have to answer the Imp, so will she do it with a spell, or will she do it with a creature, is the question. And she does it with a creature. Okay, so Elf comes out. That's a bit unfortunate. It will kill the Forest Keeper Imp before the Imp can kill the Elf. So we will do our normal trick of dropping Ragna and forcing our opponent to make a choice. So Ragna is, if she chooses to level up, Ragna will drain 3 HP off her, then deal 3 HP worth of damage, and will then drain some HP off the Elf and increase his own just a little bit. So, okay, so she decides to level up. That's probably the smart choice to make in this situation. Down drops the health. We level up ourselves to follow suit. Our Imp does a little bit of damage. Ragna does some damage and drains the HP off the Elf, which is always nice. Okay, so that Elf is going to kill our Imp, which is unfortunate, but so it goes. Out comes an Elven Archer. Okay, all right. So, quite interesting play, really. Leaving the Ragna alive. And this means that at this point, Ragna has definitely paid for his cost. He's done, what, 9 damage? So, we are going to drop Lichy in order to push Ragna out of the way, and we're going to charge up. That way, Ragna gets the kill on the Elf, and will drain the Elven Archer's HP and restore himself back up to full. Also putting the Elven Archer within KO range of Lichy. Now, this does mean that Lichy is in the middle, which is not quite ideal. Steel Dragon Lamuse comes out. All right. That's a fairly brutal thing to have to answer immediately. But we do have Mukro, we do have Drag to Hell, so we have a lot of answers for it, fortunately. Ragna's ability activates once again, continuing to drain our opponent's HP, so he's really doing work. We'll use the Mukro to get rid of the Steel Dragon, and we will charge up to gain a little bit more resources. Ragna kills the frozen creature, Lichy kills the Elven Archer, and we're now doing very well for battlefield presence. Our opponent, however, does have a lot of gold resource, and could theoretically bring out something very unpleasant. We hope not, because right now all we have is... all we have is the Drag to Hell. Okay, so it's Hero Puger. A flame emission at level 2 coupled with the Ragna wouldn't work, so I think we're going to have to Drag to Hell and hope that it hits Lichy, because that'll free up the middle slot for number 13. But it hits Ragna. That is unfortunate. So that's a shame, but at least it gets Puger off the field. We now have a good resource lead, a good HP lead. And we've taken care of the Steel Dragon and the Puger. So that's going to hurt our opponent. She currently doesn't have the resources to resummon them. So we can do just this. We'll revive to hurt our opponent a little bit more. We'll drop the Hidden Spider into the grave, just in case she decides to remove Lichy with a spell. And we will drop Cocoon Trap in there as well, just in case she decides to charge up for a big creature again. It does look like it's a big creature kind of deck, very much a, sort of hit them until they can't hit back anymore kind of deck. And that's perfect for Cocoon Trap. All right, so she's thinking about it. She knows we dropped 2 things into nature. And she knows they could be a number of things. Could be Ambush Vine, could be Cocoon Trap, could be Hidden Spider, could be Swamp Spider, could be a whole bunch of things. So she brings out Grand Elf Eleanoa, which, I mean, with Cocoon Trap, that's fine, but it wasn't necessary. A hunt would have removed that, and her ability wasn't really a threat. Nevertheless, that was a very expensive creature that now she can't do anything with. So we could use a spell to kill it and get it out of the way, but there's not really any point. So we will continue to charge up our resources. We'll let Lichy just naturally beat that Cocoon, and we'll just carry on. If she uses a spell on Lichy, we still have that Hidden Spider in the grave. And if she chooses not to get rid of Lichy, then we're just going to kill the Cocoon in the next turn anyway, so it's not a big deal. Now, she has too many resources, unfortunately, for us to bring out a Ragna, and Lichy is still on the field in the center slot, so we can't bring out number 13, which is a shame. I do keep kind of hoping that she will use a spell to remove Lichy, bring out the Hidden Spider, and then we can just drop a number 13, but she's just leaving that girl there. So let's see. She charges up, so basically trying to build back up her resources. Doesn't want us to take a lead, which is fine. She is basically safe for this turn. Even if I remove the Cocoon with the spell, she knows that's not really my style. Beastkin Josh comes out. All right, so this could be a little bit problematic. We can't really use Hunt on Josh. He's just out of range of that. We could use Flame Emission, but it's a very, very expensive move. So she's pretty low on resources. Let's drop Ragna in there. Worst case scenario, we bait out a Flame Emission, in which case the Hidden Spider comes out onto the field, and we're still okay. But I mean, even if I used a Flame Emission, pardon me, even if I used a Flame Emission to clear all of that out, we would still only have been doing 4 damage, which would only take her down to 6 HP. She has a lot of resources, so we'll do it this way, and we'll see. As I say, worst case scenario is Flame Emission, and even in that case, we do still have responses. So she revived from the grave, which took her down to 8 HP. And she's thinking about her next response. Does this mean she does not have Flame Emission? Or is she worried about using it because that'll take her down to basically no resources? It is a tricky question. Still, she has to deal with them. Oh, Betrayal. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, well that doesn't really worry us. Because the Beastkin's going to deal 6 damage, Ragna's going to deal 6 damage plus its ability damage. I mean, it's going to hurt. But Ragna's, when he comes back, is just going to drop down into the slot that's in front of him. So all we have to do is just wait until Ragna comes back onto our side of the field, use a Arrow of Revenge, and we win. So let's drop the Hidden Spider back in there, just in case. And yeah, I mean, I think we can basically just take these hits and wait for Ragna to pop back and do what he does. So let's just charge up and see. All right. So the Hidden Spider is there just in case things get hairy, but hopefully not. So that's not too much damage. We can definitely take that. Ragna comes back onto our side of the field, drains our opponent's HP, and lands the finishing blow. And we have a Arrow of Revenge in there if we need to. So she charges up a couple of times into light. Oh, and uses the Greatsword Jareka. Okay, now, good job we dropped that Hidden Spider. That blocks. That could have been fatal damage. I mean, Yeah, that was actually a little bit close. That was a little bit close. And now we win. But, I mean, the Hidden Spider had a 50% chance of landing in front of one or the other of them, and that would have prevented Fatal regardless. But Zidap is sad now. That was basically their last chance. It was a good one, actually. That was a 50-50 right there. Sword of Jareka. Not something you anticipate. Very, very cool. And Ragna, of all people, lands the finishing blow. Hooray for Ragna. And that was Ragna the Bloodedge. As you can see, very much a mind games, tricky kind of deck. So if you enjoy playing that sort of thing, I think you'll enjoy this one. And if you would like to copy this deck directly into your game, there's the share code up in the top right-hand corner, as always. So that's it from me, and that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to all the Arcanauts who have subscribed so far. Until next time, have fun, and good luck.